Nothing ever happens. This mantra has determined the life and philosophy of every Chud for as long as any Chud could remember. And it was a pure idea, a good idea, and it was a true idea until that fateful day when something happened. Hello everybody, it is 2 plus 2 TV coming at you on Sunday afternoon, June 15th, the year of our Lord 2025. And it has been a very interesting week that we have had. The world really stands in awe and shock at the current events going on. And because of this eventfulness, it's really hard to know where to start. But I think that the first thing that happened this week, the biggest thing that happened this week, was the beginning of a very large and very impactful conflict that has already been very large and impactful 3 days into it. The current Iran-Israel conflict. Now, on June 12th, in the middle of the night, it was early morning in Iran. Israel sent missiles to Iran in a preemptive strike, assassinating many leaders in the military and the nuclear science program, as well as killing many civilians. Now, this obviously immoral act, the murder of civilians, was immediately followed by Israeli operatives and Israeli propagandists on social media and such, trying to make it out that Israel was the victim in this situation. Now, I'm not exactly certain how they intended to prove this because nobody fell for it. And even though every single Republican congressman that I could find supported Israel emphatically and immediately, the United States citizens who voted for these people, by and large, are not falling for it, as far as I can tell. Now, it really is baffling how seemingly the moment Israel does something obviously wrong, everybody goes to sweep for them. But thankfully, since nobody's falling for it, it's not really working. They can gaslight the American people as much as they want. They can make us try and hate Iranians and love Israel and try to convince us that Israel is some sort of pariah of virtue that we must protect. But nobody believes it, because Israel has already embittered itself against the world, and the world has been embittered to Israel in this last couple of years. Since the October 7th attacks, Israel has committed horrid acts in Gaza specifically, of course also in southern Lebanon and among all of their neighbors. They have been aggressive, they have been unyielding in their atrocity. And Israel is simply not popular. So now when Israel does this horrific act, killing civilians, targeting civilians, destroying an apartment complex, destroying multiple apartment complexes, nobody will believe that they are the victim in this situation. It's really interesting to see how the Israeli government tries to spin this, with the IDF official Twitter account tweeting things like, Israeli civilians are currently being targeted by the Iranian regime. The world cannot stay silent. As if they had not just targeted civilians of Iran. Furthermore, this map, people have been pointing out, looks surprisingly similar to another map. And yeah, makes you think how Iran is probably doing a pretty good job here fighting pedophilia. If you look at how these maps coincide, with every Iranian missile launch that successfully reaches Israel, you have to think that at least 2 or 3 pedophiles are dying. And I think that's something, there's something to be said there. Anyway. Now, what's really interesting is on the same day that this horrible attack against Iran happened, and then the subsequent attack to Israel from Iran that followed. On the same day, Donald Trump put on his Truth Social account that he was not going to deport illegal workers who are farmers or in the hotel and leisure industries, and was going to focus solely on criminals. Something that his voter base obviously does not approve of. Now, when you vote to deport all the illegals, you think to yourself, you want to deport all the illegals. Criminality wasn't the only concern that people had when it came to illegal migration. A lot of the concern was the overinflation of the job market. When the job market shrinks, the economy might shrink, but a lot of the times people at the bottom do prosper from this because they have better leverage to their employers. There are less workers, so there's more demand for workers. So, and when you are in more demand, you have a better ability to bargain with those who want to. You can see this happen over and over in history. But the fact that agricultural workers, basically slaves that are working below minimum wage a lot of the times, hotel and leisure industry workers who are also basically slaves, these people are being allowed to continually work in the U.S. by Donald Trump, and one has to wonder why. Why? People speculate that it's because Donald Trump's friends' bottom lines rely on these people, which is probable, to say the least. But I digress. Donald Trump is not having a very good week either. He expressed support for Israel, even though he is a little bit lighter in his rhetoric than many of the other Republicans who surround him. Donald Trump this week also did a military parade that by all accounts was a flop. It was boring. It was dry. It didn't look anything cool or fascist or whatever. Like these other countries putting on these parades, even European countries, even Latin American countries, when they put on parades, they look cool. Honestly, those Indians, on their motorcycles, that looked cooler than what was happening. And I don't understand how that's possible, because this is the U.S. Army. This is the United States Army. It's the greatest fighting force in the world, and they can't put on a parade? Are you kidding me? I think that that's probably the worst thing about the U.S. Army. We need to be putting money into that. Take all the money away from fucking Israel. Put it on the U.S. Army parade commission, okay? We need to teach these kids how to march. They're walking like they're in line in elementary school. It's ridiculous. I don't understand how could you possibly fumble a military parade with the greatest fighting force on earth, with one of the coolest histories of any fighting force on earth? We fought in World War II, the Civil War, Vietnam, Korea, everything. These are iconic wars. These are wars everybody knows about. People know the uniforms. People recognize them. People respect that history. And what do we get? We get a boring parade. Okay, whoever was running this, whoever Trump paid a lot of money to run this, whoever the event organizers were running, they failed completely. They made tanks rolling through the streets of Washington look boring. This looks more boring than any Mardi Gras parade I've ever seen in my entire life. I'm from Louisiana. So if a bunch of, ragtag crews in rural bumfuck nowhere, Louisiana, can put on a better parade than you can, you have your work cut out for you, buddy. You can't do this. You can't be doing this, man. It's ridiculous. This makes me mad. This just makes me mad. I don't like seeing this footage. It upsets me. It upsets me. It's actually upsetting me more than seeing all the war footage. It's upsetting me more than that. I'm being honest. It is. I don't like this at all. This is ridiculous. This is ridiculous. This is ridiculous. See, actually, there was a recording that somebody made, and the Lincoln Project posted it, and this was before the actual huge parade, right? And this looked better than anything else we saw. I don't understand why we didn't have this, but they're still marching boring. This is the thing: is we need to have the North Korean freaking super spick and span uniforms, putting those feet straight. We don't bent knees. This is the greatest military in the world. Why are we bending our knees when we're marching? Why can't we do anything regimented? Why do we all look all? There's no coordination. There's no impressiveness to this display. People don't realize the point of a military parade. The point of a military parade is to display precision as discipline. We all know in combat, discipline doesn't look like precision like it would in a parade. But precision still shows discipline when everybody looks the same in line, when everybody is marching straight, firm, impressively. This shows power in the disposition, in the constitution of these individual soldiers, that they are able to move as units. And that reflects the power that they have on the battlefield, even though they're probably not walking in straight lines on the battlefield. They're able to work as one cohesive unit. But here, you see, they don't look unified at all. They just look like they're walking through boringly. They don't even look happy. They could at least, act like they're marching through the streets of Berlin, freaking woohoo, we won. They're not even doing that. They just kind of look bored. It's really disappointing, to be honest. I'm not having fun with that. There are these protests protesting Trump going on that were really cringe, called the No Kings protests. Oh, no kings. Trump's a king. I don't wish Trump was a king, really. But if he was a king, actually, I think he'd be better at his job, because people would be able to go to him. He wouldn't have this this box around him of all of his, neocon brainwashed cronies that are sitting around him and are trying to convince him. Because, look, a lot of the times when Trump does something based, it's usually because he personally saw something, somebody brought something up to him, and it's an opinion that he has. Because I think he legitimately feels for the American people. He legitimately wants, to be liked. He legitimately cares for his voter base. So the ways that he is he's convinced out of these positions, he was going to drop Israel recently. People are forgetting about that. He stopped talking with Netanyahu, etc. He said that Israel was being too aggressive. He made peace with the Houthis in Yemen. Usually when these things happen, it's because he has some sort of sense within him brought about by his actual genuine care for his voter base. But unfortunately, he isn't strong enough mentally or organizationally to keep the bad actors out. And we see this constantly with the fact that, he's saying he doesn't want to deport these workers, these illegal workers in the hospitality, in the agricultural industry, when they're basically working as slaves. They're doing this menial job that can be done by machines. This is a perfect parallel to antebellum slavery. I don't know if people realize this. This is a perfect parallel to antebellum slavery, because when antebellum slavery was in its twilight, it was not actually economically viable. People kept it around because it was a dying industry that was sort of still, the milk was still being squeezed out. It was the last milk of this dying cow. And all of the people who ran the industry, they knew that this cow had a little bit more milk left and they could squeeze it completely dry. Now, machines can do the jobs that these migrants do more efficiently. They can do it for less expense, but and they can do it better. There's less risk of human contamination and all these sorts of things. But we keep on employing these migrant workers because they are cheap, because it is economically viable. You don't have to make this investment into industrializing your farms. So all of these migrants are still working now. Americans could be being paid to operate these machines, to repair these machines, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But no, we have to pay these migrant workers, freaking $4 an hour to pick radishes. It's not fun. I don't like it. Nobody likes it. I know nobody likes it. This is the issue. But people act like they like it because of some sort of virtue signal-y retardation. And when I say virtue signal, I do actually mean it in the purest sense, is that they're trying to frame their strange, selfish, and idiotic opinions as some sort of virtuous act. Like they're trying to frame it that, oh, look at how hard these people are working. This is Americans can do this. This is just so truly good and wonderful that these people are working so hard. Even though, it is actually slave labor. If you think about it for more than 10 seconds, you realize this is like, oh yeah, we have a slave class. We have a migrant slave class at the bottom rung of society that don't even get like social benefits because of their super low freaking. Most of them don't get social benefits. Some of them do, somehow, but yeah, they're just super low income. They're sending money back to their families because they know that they can make a little bit more money here than they can back home. Even though if they were living back home, they probably would have a higher standard of life because their money goes a way longer way. But they're untrained workers, so they're at the bottom rung of society where they're from. So it's not exactly easy for them, even though they're not necessarily starving. They're just poor. They're not refugees. This is one thing that people don't realize is you are a refugee when you are in active danger in your homeland, right? Now, there's a lot of people that are refugees. I believe this, and it's obvious there are a lot of war-torn places in the world. There are a lot of places where it is actually dangerous to live. But these Latin American countries, that's not common. And where it is common is places where the populace is complicit in criminality a lot of the time. But but yeah, it's either criminality, but the economic angle isn't real. It's only real in places like Haiti, and we don't even get that many refugees from Haiti because they're actually too poor to even get here. It's such a war torn, terrible country. I say war torn. It's just gang torn, really. But I digress. These people are just poor in their home countries, and look, being poor sucks. That's understandable. It's understandable that you want to come here, but we don't have. There's no obligation for the American people to, bear the weight of having their job markets inflated by illegal migrants coming in to basically make the lives of their families a little cushy in their horrible countries that they come from. These very poor countries that are not starving, but they're just kind of shitty. Now, these No Kings protests, we've sort of seen the delusion, the idiocy of boomers, of these 50 to 70 about year old people going out there, late 50s, early 70s, going out there, and they're just paralyzed in fear. It's mostly old people going to these marches. I live in the Northeast, and I drove by one of these, and it was mostly old people.
I'm just so scared. I'm 74 years old. I worry about everything, and I just am so scared and upset, and I don't understand why people did voted for this person.
It's sad to see how mentally tortured these people who got to live through the greatest era, basically, of the United States. They got to live in the most economically prosperous era of human society, possibly, where everybody got a home. They have a vacation house. They probably have two properties, or they're living in a retirement community in Florida, right? Or they have their retirement community house that they sold, and they never gave their kids anything, right? They sold their children's childhood homes, etc. These people are paralyzed in fear. These old white people are paralyzed in fear that their society might become like racist or something. Even though they saw the fruits of a racist society as kids, and they benefited off it. Now, I know this is they're the Woodstock generation. They're the people that, were lazy. They got everything they could have ever wanted and more, and they took and took and took and took. And now the only thing that gives them any meaning is these meaningless political platitudes that they sort of rattle off because they're brainwashed by their televisions. And I get that. And honestly, it's sad. But we shouldn't listen to these people, and we shouldn't allow these people to have any influence. And keep in mind, the horrible, subversive, liberal boomer and the neocon warmonger boomer, these are two sides of the same coin. They're kind of the same people. They're brainwashed by their TVs, and they don't have any sense of actual passing the torch to the next generation. They just want to see their sort of strange goals fulfilled. They're goals that they don't really benefit from at all because they're out the door in 20 years. They believe that the world is ending. Both of these people do. They put all their faith into these dumb things, right? For the neocons, it's Israel. They put all of their faith in Israel. Israel is their idol, right? And for these the lib boomers, their idol is left wing social ideology, right? Where I can talk. This is the thing. I've talked to. There's old women in my family on both sides of this coin, right? That I can talk to. I can talk to one, cry about how the government is taking away trans kids' rights. Think about this. A person, okay, who grew up Christian, never heard about transsexualism, never heard about this sort of phenomenon, probably until when we all heard about it, right? Which was like 2010s is when we really heard about this and started, having it shoved down our throats. She'd never heard about this, and now she's crying about it like it's the most important thing in the world. And then you have the other side of the coin. You have these people who lived through wars, who saw the United States involvement in Vietnam and such, and then are crying about how, hey, if we don't get involved and protect Israel, then Iran is going to come for us. Iran is going to kill us. These people never consider why. Why would a country like Iran hate America? Why would they? Now, of course, there's reasons of religion. There's reasons of their theocratic ideals, and obviously that's antithetical to us. The Iranian governmental structure will always hate us to a certain extent for not being Shia Muslims. I get it. But the reason why they hate us more than they hate, Romania, right? The reason why they hate us is because we are the ones supporting the one state in the Middle East that is causing everybody else headaches. We've emboldened the Arabs against us. We've emboldened all Muslims around the entire world against us. And I don't understand why this would be a beneficial thing to society. And defending Israel, continuing to defend Israel, is only perpetuating this problem. I don't know if people realize this. Continuing to defend Israel is only perpetuating this problem. It's obvious. This is why I don't think we should be sending support that way. But hey, that's just my opinion. Now, for one last story coming out this week, a story that we know more than we should about, but still not enough because everybody's trying to flip it their own way. And I have my own opinions on it, you'll see, is that 2 Minnesota lawmakers were shot by the same man who's dressed in a police uniform with a freaking Purge latex mask on. That's terrifying. First off, looking at these pictures, it's terrifying. If you've seen this stuff, it's freaky. It's freaky. And this guy was in his 50s. He worked for Tim Walz, the governor of Minnesota. He's allegedly some sort of strange evangelical Christian. He's allegedly right wing. These are all these things that we've been hearing. These 2 people that he killed that were Democrats were 2 Democrats that crossed party lines commonly, or at least importantly in certain aspects. So people are scrounging around in the mud trying to justify that this attack means that the other side is evil and violent, and we are the virtuous paragons of freedom that are true Americans, and the other guys are supporting political assassinations. Now, what people don't really know, or people refuse to acknowledge, is that at this point in time, if you're a young person, if you're politically active, which means you're terminally online, let's be honest, if you're any of these things, you privately like the idea of your enemies being killed. I don't, but I've seen all sides. I've seen these group chats on all sides of the aisle. These people want their enemies to be killed. And when it happens, you have to publicly face and say this was bad. But people don't really know how to react because nobody cares about the specific situation. Now, the fact that everybody's scrambling to make this about them, right? To make this about how, oh, well, you know, Democrats support violence, or, oh, Republicans are supporting violence. I think it's funny because I've seen like a couple recordings of this dude. I might play one now. He just seems like, he seems insane.
And I'm just as excited about Jesus.
Et je suis juste excité
Right
de
here,
Jésus.
right now.
Jusqu'à présent, même maintenant.
And when I get excited,
Et quand je suis excité,
I want to dance.
je veux danser.
And what Jesus did for me.
C'est que Jésus a fait pour moi.
Jesus is God.
Jésus est
Almighty
Dieu.
God.
C'est le Dieu
He
puissant.
saved my life.
Il a sauvé ma vie.
Woo! I'm excited about God.
Je suis excité de Dieu.
And I want to worship Him.
Et c'est pourquoi je l'adore.
Because He's coming again. And He's
Jésus, il
excited.
revient encore.
And He's got plans. He's
Il
got
a
plans
de plans
and purposes
et le dessein
for each one of you
pour chacun de vous ici.
and for me.
Et pour moi aussi.
I think he might just be clinically insane. And nobody's even putting this out. Everybody thinks that he must be like this genius. I think he might just be a loose cannon. Who knows what his manifesto says? But he's a 50-year-old guy who went and assassinated two people that weren't even particularly important. Like the Minnesota legislature isn't the most pressing issue of our time, is it? I don't think so. But for some reason, this guy killed two of them, and he seems to be insane. He looks insane. Just look at his face. Look at his physiognomy. He's crazy. I'm tired of acting like I'm tired of acting like you can't look at somebody's face and not immediately register that they're insane. Because it's obvious. That dude's insane. Come on, look at him. He's insane. But yeah, you have to flip everything to be oh, this is proof my enemy is evil. You have to flip everything into that instead of just saying, oh, this guy's crazy. Now I'm certain that once this guy's manifesto comes out, we're going to be exposed to some schizophrenic idiocy, and nobody's going to know what to make of it, and everybody's still going to try and spin it, and because this guy's just insane, you can really read anything into it. And that's not even me sweeping either way, because I don't actually care about this situation particularly. I think that both sides of the aisle are pushing towards political violence being a commonality and a want and a general desire. But, I guess that's just me. And my, enlightened centrist looking up, even though I'm not an enlightened centrist at all, but, if that's the air that I'm exuding, I'm very sorry about that. And I don't mean it because that's not what I believe. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this rant today, this little overview, and I'm sure there's a lot I missed. This little overview of the craziness that's happened this week, the absolute insanity. And before I go, I want to just say one thing, which is yesterday, for most of the time, I was at a family function for hours, for like, I want to say 5 hours. And, you know, it was nice. I didn't look at my phone at all. I did miss my girlfriend a lot. That's the only thing that really affected me negatively about, you know, living in the real world. And when you're looking out on a lake, you know, tranquil, peaceful, a lake that has history, stuff like that, you know, when you're looking out on it, you really don't feel like you're in this sort of rat race that everybody's put everybody else on. We're in a rat race right now that the world is perpetuating. When we see Israel and Iran are sending missiles to each other, we have opinions, even though we really shouldn't. I mean, when we see these protests happening across the U.S. and these reactions and these things that Trump or whatever is doing, and even though these are coming to personally affect us, it's true, they are. They shouldn't be, but they are. But in another way, a lot of this doesn't affect anybody immediately. So you really have to strike a balance of what you let affect you. Things should concern you. You should know about things. But also live real life for a little bit, because that's the only way you're getting out of this. Because if your political thought isn't centered around that you want as many people as possible to live a normal and happy life, you're not thinking right. And if you're not trying to pursue that yourself, you're not following proper thought. And if you think that's impossible, or it's an ideal to be pursued, I think. And everybody should pursue it. Anyway, I hope God blesses you all in this coming week. And I hope you all enjoyed. See ya.